Hello. Welcome to our first lesson on adding and subtracting real numbers. So your job is to take notes. You'll want to get out your notebook, make sure you put down a title, and write down all the examples. And then you want to summarize your notes at the end, telling me what you've learned. All right, these are 1-1 notes, adding and subtracting real numbers. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to give you some rules for adding integers, adding real numbers. If they have the same sign, so if they're both positive, you're going to add and keep the sign. And if they are different signs, you're going to subtract and take the sign of the biggest number. So you want to maybe write the rules down, and then we'll talk about some examples on how to do this. All right, example number 1, you have -3 plus 6. You'll notice you have a negative plus a positive. When you have the signs are different, when you're adding, then you're going to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So you have a -3 plus 6, so subtract the numbers, 6 minus 3, which is equal to 3. The bigger number is positive. This is a positive number, so your answer is going to be 3 because you take the sign of the bigger number. Number 2, we have -4 plus a -5. They're both negative, so when they're both negative, you just add and keep the sign. So you'd get a -9. Number 3, they're both negative again. You have a -5.3 plus -4.9. So they're both negative, just add the numbers together and keep the sign. So if we add it, we get 10.2. They were both negative, so it has to be a -10.2. For number 4 now, we're going to do subtraction. So let's go over the rules of subtraction. Basically, what you're going to do is what we call keep, change, change. So instead of subtracting, you're going to add the opposite. And what that means is we summarize that with KCC. So we're going to keep the first number, keep the 9 as it is. The 9 is positive. Then we're going to change the subtraction sign to addition, because we're going to add the opposite. So keep, change that to adding, change the positive 18 to a -18. Now I have addition, but I have a positive plus a negative, which means I subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So 9 plus a -18, subtract the numbers, 18 minus 9 is 9, and the 18 is negative and it's bigger, so you'd get a -9 for your answer. So again, that's keep, change, change. Let's see that on some other examples. On number 5, we're also subtracting. You have a -12 subtracting 19, a positive 19. So you're going to KCC when you subtract. You only use this when you're subtracting. So keep the -12, change the subtraction to addition, and then change the positive 19 to a -19. Now you can see that you have a -12 plus a -19. So follow the rules of addition, which are if they're both the same sign, then you just add and keep the sign. So we would get 31. They're both negative, so it would be a -31. All right, example 6 is adding. So the signs are different. So since the signs are different, we have to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So I take the bigger number, which is 19.3. I'm basically adding a -12, which means I'm going to subtract. You can add a 0 as a placeholder, and you'd end up with 7.3, if I did that right. And the 19 is positive, so your answer is going to be positive. On number 7, you have 18 minus a -7. So when we do subtraction, we're going to keep, change, change on that. So keep 18, change the subtraction to adding, change the -7 to a +7. So now I have 18 plus a +17. That's going to give me a +25. Number 8, again, it's subtraction. So you do keep, change, change. We're going to add the opposite. So I'm going to keep the first number, change the subtraction to addition, change the -5 to a +5. So I have 11.7. Remember, you have to line up your decimals. You're adding a 5 to it, which is a 5.0. So you get 16.7. They're both positive, so it's positive 16.7 as your answer. Example 9, we have three numbers that we're working with. So I'm going to work with the first two. They're both negative, so I add them together. So I get negative 2.6 plus a negative 3.4. Add that together and I'd get a negative 6.0. So that number is negative 6. And I'm going to add that to a positive 7.6. So a negative plus a positive, you subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So we would get 1.6 positive because the 7.6 is bigger. That's your answer. All right, we're not done. We have a few more to go. All right, so now we have example 10 and 11, which are fractions. So remember, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, you must find a common denominator. And we're going to follow the rules that we just talked about. So I have a negative 1/3 plus a positive 1/2. So what I have to do is I'm going to get a common denominator first, which is 6. So this would be negative 2/6 plus this would be 3/6. So if a negative plus a positive, that means I subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. That means I'm going to take 3/6 and subtract 2/6. That would give me 1/6. And the 3/6 is positive, so that means my answer is positive. For number 11, I need to get a common denominator. So my common denominator would be 10. So 4 and 1/2 is the same thing as 4 and 5/10. Subtracting a negative, and we make this into tenths, so a negative 2/10. All right, now I work on my signs, which remember we're subtracting, so we do keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep the 4 and 5/10. I'm going to change the subtraction to addition, and then I'm going to change the negative 2/10 to a positive 2/10. So I end up with, I have to add. Now everything's positive, so I get 4 and 7/10. Pretty simple. Don't let fractions scare you, because they're not scary. All right, so now we get to practice some more fractions. Joy, joy. All right, so again, common denominator. So common denominator would be tenths. So negative 5/10 minus a negative, make this into tenths, which means 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6/10. So now I have a negative 5/10 minus a negative. So subtracting, so I must do keep, change, change. So I keep the first number, change the subtraction to addition, and change the negative to a positive. Now I have a negative 5/10 plus a positive 6/10. Since one is negative and one is positive, I subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So 6/10 minus 5/10 is 1/10, and it's positive. Number 13, I have to get a common denominator, so 6 and 7/15. Subtracting 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. So now I have to borrow. So let me erase this because I want to, will it let me do that? Yeah, I like them lined up differently. You can do it however you want, but I'm going to subtract 3 and 10/15. And remember this from pre-algebra, because the 10/15 is bigger, I have to borrow, make that a 5. And then I have to add 15/15 to the 7/15. So I'd get 22/15. And then I'm going to subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2. 22 minus 10 is 12/15. And then I can reduce that. So 12/15, I can divide both of those by 3, I think. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And you guys are going to check and make sure I did that right and let me know if I didn't. All right, let's go on to number 14. I need to get a common denominator. So a common denominator, I believe, would be, let's see, 15 and 6, maybe 30. So 15 goes into 30 2 times, so 2 times 7 is 14. Minus, and then 6 goes into 30 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. All right, now I need to work on my sign. So I am subtracting, and whenever I subtract, I do keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep the negative 14/30, change the subtraction to addition, and then change the positive 25/30ths to a negative. Now I can see that I'm I'm adding two negatives. So all I have to do then is add the top numbers together. So I'd get, what is that, 39, negative 39/30ths. And in algebra, you can actually keep that improper. So we will just keep that answer as an improper fraction, which is perfectly fine in algebra to do. If you want to change it, you can. All right, next, number 15. We have a negative 2 1/5 plus 2 2/3. I want to get a common denominator. So 15 would be my common denominator. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 2, common denominator is 15. 3 times 5, so this would be 10. All right, now I'm adding a negative plus a positive. So that means I have to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So it would be 2 10/15. I have to subtract 2 3/15. My answer is going to be positive because 2 10/15 is positive. So the 2's cancel out. 10 minus 3 would be 7/15, positive. All right, we have two more problems and we're done. It says to find the change in temperature or elevation. So when we're finding the change, we're subtracting. We're finding the difference, right, between the temperature and the elevation. So if I start at negative 34 and I'm finding the change, that means I'm subtracting 73. What is the difference between negative 34 and positive 73? So what I would do, because I'm subtracting, is I'm going to do keep, change, change. So I'd keep the negative 34, change the subtraction to addition, and change the 73 to a negative. Now I have two negatives that I'm going to add together. So I would have a negative, 3 plus 4 is 7, 3 plus 10 is 107. So the change in temperature is going to be 170 degrees. So yeah, is it really negative? No, it's really change is going to be the absolute value, which means it's just a difference of 107. It's neither positive nor negative. It's just what is the change. All right, we do the same thing with number 17. We start with 1340. And what is the change? That means I'm subtracting a negative 90. So what is the difference between the two? So again, I'm subtracting, so I'll do keep, change, change, keep, change the subtraction to addition, and change the negative to a positive. So the difference in temperature would be 1340 plus 90. I apologize for my handwriting, it's not always the best. So the difference between 1340, positive 1340, all the way down to a negative 90 meters would be a change of 1430. All right, and that's it for our lesson for today. Your job now is to summarize the lesson, basically tell me what the rules for addition and subtraction are, and then how you would find a change in temperature or elevation. All right, we'll see you in class. Have a great day.